Jim Harbaugh is apparently the clear frontrunner for the Chargers gig, while Raheem Morris likely out of the running for that one, but still has 4 opportunities to be a head coach. And the Dodgers are apparently this close to adding to their rotation. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is January 23rd, 2024. It is my birthday. But after this tape, I'm going to see what we can do to actually enjoy life today. But in the meantime, let's talk a little LA sports. If you like being in the know about LA, well, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. I do look forward to hearing from you. And man, it's good to be back home after a few days on the road. Before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard yesterday at Crypto.com Arena. Nice attempt by the Kings, just not good enough. San Jose defeats them 4-3 in a shootout. Meanwhile today, this could be entertaining. Lakers at Clippers at 7 o'clock. Totally looking forward to it. Trying to see if the Lakers can actually rally up and get over 500. That's been a bit of a while, wouldn't you say? Meanwhile, let's get to the news because we got a lot to get to. The guess here is that the Bolts are now going to have to start talking turkey with Jim Harbaugh because they have scheduled to hold a second interview with the Michigan coach. They've already interviewed 15 guys for the job. Now they're actually trying to whittle it down. And when you look at the situation with Harbaugh, it's going to be clear. It's about the money now. Because all along, we've been talking about Jim Harbaugh seeking to create a bidding war because he already has a job. This goes beyond football. This goes to real life. It is easier for anybody to get a better job when you already have a job. Because if they don't give you a good enough offer, you can go tell them to screw themselves and keep the gig that you already have. And it's not a bad gig to be over at Michigan right now. They are the defending national champions of college football. And Jim Harbaugh is not stupid. Remember, he renegotiated his contract with Michigan just a couple of years ago. 2. It's not that far ago. So you're sitting there saying to yourself, if you're Jim Harbaugh, I can stay at Michigan, leverage the fact that the NFL wants me to get more money. I also have the Chargers who apparently want me. And oh, by the way, so does the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons have apparently made Harbaugh their plan B if they don't get Bill Belichick. But you can see now that Harbaugh is sitting there going, I've got 3 football programs that want me. Wouldn't you try to see how much jack you could pry out of people? So this is where the rubber meets the road for the Spanoses. They were saying they were going to cast a wide net. They surely did. They also said that they were going to be cutting a fat check if need be. Well, if you want Jim Harbaugh, that's going to have to be the case. NBC is reporting that the Chargers will also interview Dawn Aponte for the GM gig. Now that's Dawn, D-A-W-N, not D-O-N. So that means, you guessed it, a woman. Now, it's an interesting sense in the sense that if the Chargers do go out and sign this lady, they're going to make national news, because if there's one thing that the press loves is they love trying to find somebody who's groundbreaking, somebody who's historic. And Aponte would literally be the league's first female general manager. Now, that doesn't mean that she doesn't have experience in helping to run NFL teams before. She was in the front office for the Miami Dolphins, for Cleveland, for the Jets. She just hasn't been a GM. So it would be an interesting move if the Chargers actually did sign a woman to become their general manager. And it's not unheard of in professional sports. Recall, Kim Ng, who was a longtime Dodgers executive, was recently the GM of the Miami Marlins. And she didn't get fired for doing a bad job, mind you. She quit because she didn't like the way the Marlins were running things. So can a woman do the job? We're pretty confident a woman can do the job in Major League Baseball. We might be about to see how good a woman can do running an NFL team. And because of that, I think on some level, you kind of want to give the Chargers credit for a few things this offseason, right? Like I said, they promised to cast a wide net to replace Brandon Staley. They did. They interviewed more people than any other team. And by the way, it wasn't just limited to recycled white guys. There's a thing called the Rooney Rule where you have to interview a minimum. You have to at least try to pretend that you're not going to hire the random retreaded white guy. You're going to think outside the box. Maybe find a brilliant mind who just so happens to be of an underrepresented community. The Chargers exceeded that. 4 of the people that they've interviewed to become head coach are in fact minorities. So they didn't just limit themselves to the retreaded white guy, you know? And I'm the furthest thing from a social justice warrior, but I do like to see that people are actually trying to expand their horizons. It's not just white guys who know how to run a football team after all. So what I'm getting at though, is while there's all kinds of good things that you could say about the Chargers offseason, there is one thing that I'm not too keen on. Offensive coordinator Kellen Moore was blocked by the Chargers for trying to interview with the Chicago Bears. This is according to ESPN. This is really bothersome to me because the only way that keeping Moore on staff makes sense is if the top candidate said, look, if you hire me, I want to keep Kellen Moore, right? Otherwise, you're just letting that guy dangle while all the jobs are being gobbled up by other people. That's the way it only makes sense. But if in fact, say a Jim Harbaugh or another top candidate said, I want to keep Kellen Moore, wouldn't you then have the decency to tell him, it's like, look, we haven't signed this coach yet, but he indicates that he really likes you. Could you just be a little patient? If you're the Chargers, by the way, or I should say, let me rephrase, if you're Kellen Moore, you would actually want to stay with the Chargers than interview with the Chicago Bears. Who would you rather coach, Justin Herbert or Justin Fields? Exactly. Apparently, Moore sees the possibility that he's going to be without a gig. Why not let him have the chance to go find himself another job? So, lots of good stuff in the Chargers offseason. But leaving Kellen Moore just hanging out there to dry, not so cool. I would argue that Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, who has just been absolutely gangbusters with the Rams, is out of the running for the Chargers head coaching gig. But don't worry too much about his immediate future. The Rams obviously love him. They love him so much that they were telling other teams, look, you really can find a diamond in the rough here if you give Raheem Morris a second chance at being a full-time head coach. But that's okay, because the man has 4 opportunities to still become a head coach, even if the Chargers aren't all that interested right now. For example, he's got second interviews lined up with Atlanta, Carolina, Seattle, and Washington. Now, out of all those gigs, I would argue that Atlanta is probably last on the list. We've already mentioned the Falcons in this particular clip, how the Falcons are targeting Bill Belichick, how Jim Harbaugh is plan B. That makes Raheem Morris at best plan C. Just saying. Rams passing game coordinator Zach Robinson is being courted now by 4 teams to become an offensive coordinator. We've mentioned how he'll be talking with the New England Patriots. That interview is apparently going to go on today. One thing I did not know about Zach Robinson is that he already was interviewed by the Chicago Bears for their offensive coordinator gig. Pittsburgh and Las Vegas also want to talk with him. Rams GM Les Snead also took note of linebacker Ernest Jones's career year. Quote, definitely a leader on the defense, unquote. Which basically means Snead looks at him with almost as much reverence as Aaron Donald, for Pete's sakes. Their leader. Now, Jones set a career high in tackles with 145 last year, along with 4.5 sacks. But the question now rises, would the Rams actually extend Ernest Jones? They don't normally pay a lot of money for linebackers. Now, he's also not a free agent now, but he's about to go into the last year of his rookie deal, which means if you want to extend him and you hopefully want to get some sort of leeway or some sort of hedge against a salary cap in the future, it means you start negotiating now. We'll find out if the Rams are actually going to do that. The Dodgers are apparently about to add to their starting rotation again. This is according to The Athletic. Left-hander James Paxton, last seen being kind of meh with the Boston Red Sox, has been offered a one-year, $12 million contract. Now, look, if this were to happen, it would basically be akin to a lot of signings that the Dodgers make for free agent pitching. LA has done this in the past. Guys who've been kind of hurt, guys who have been once seen as the next big thing and kind of fallen to the wayside. You think of players such as Tyler Anderson, such as Andrew Heaney. And then, of course, you would be remiss without mentioning the disaster that was Noah Syndergaard last year. But it still matters that the Dodgers would want to do this because you have to consider the health of the current staff. Walker Buehler, coming off a second Tommy John surgery. They traded for Tyler Glasnow, but Tyler Glasnow has a lengthy history of missing time as well. So I don't know if the Dodgers are thinking 6-man rotation or if they're saying we need somebody that we know with starting experience to pick up the slack for the inevitable injury. Could go either way. We've mentioned bidding wars developing for NFL coaching prospects, but there is also one developing in MLS for LAFC midfielder Kellen Acosta. This is also according to The Athletic. The only thing is, out of the teams that are apparently trying to land this U.S. men's national team contributor, there are 3 teams interested. They did not mention LAFC. Chicago, Colorado, Sporting Kansas City. So a key contributor to LAFC is apparently on the outs. They also reported that there is no progress on a new deal for MLS Golden Boot winner Dennis Bouanga. So it remains a very curious offseason for the Black and Gold. Do you remember Robbie Rogers? If you're a Galaxy fan, as I am. He's a former Galaxy defender. He's played for the U.S. men's national team. He was also the first openly gay male athlete to come out during his career of any major American pro sport. He did that back in 2013. He wound up marrying a guy named Greg Berlanti. Now, if you watch a lot of superhero movies, a lot of superhero TV, Berlanti basically created something called the Arrowverse that was on the CW network for a long time. A lot of shows in the so-called Arrowverse, you know, Supergirl, Arrow, obviously the Green Arrow, a few other ones, The Flash, and so on. That was all through the vision of Greg Berlanti. My wife watches one of his shows regularly, You, on Netflix. Point being with all of this, Rogers has now been successful in show business as well. He is nominated for a Golden Globe this year. He was the executive producer of a show called Fellow Travelers. It was nominated, I should say, for Best Television Limited Series. The show is about the government's campaign against sexual deviancy that was in the 1980s. During the height of the AIDS epidemic, when it first broke out and nobody knew what the hell was going on. So, congratulations to Rogers. just being nominated from that stuff to excel not only as an athlete but also in the entertainment industry. That's actually pretty impressive. Former NBA All-Star Gilbert Arenas is a compelling guy. He has very interesting opinions, not necessarily saying that he's always right, but he gave a take on USC's freshman Bronny James, the son of you-know-who. Arenas said James is more athletic than Jrue Holiday, but, quote, we don't know what he really is. He has the Bugatti engine, but he wants to drive the speed limit. He don't want a ticket. That's how he uses his body, unquote. So to be clear, to give James a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, he did have a major cardiac event last year. Maybe that's a reason why he's not firing the engines on all cylinders right now. Just saying. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about where you think Jim Harbaugh is now on the pecking order for NFL coaching, or if he'll go back to Michigan. Talk to me about the Rams situation, about Raheem Morris, if he is going to get that second shot at being an NFL head coach. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.